Welcome. Oh, good start, Mary. Good start with it was a lovely introduction, by the way, and it was all muted. Anyway, welcome, Happy New Year, and welcome to Mission Dharma. I'm Mary Davis. I will be leading tonight. I know many of you by sight and in person, some of you. And as if you may know me, I am the president of the board of Mission Dharma. You'll often see me co-hosting here with, or co-piloting, as we call it, with Howie. Tonight, our co-pilot is the lovely Catherine. Thank you for your help, Catherine. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and just before we get started, unmute ourselves, say hello, Happy New Year.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Peaceful New Year.
See you all. Happy New Year from Santa Fe.
Oh, that's right. And where are you?
Hi, everybody. Charlie and Elsa from Berkeley.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy snowy New Year from Saskatchewan.
Nice. Happy snowy New Year from Santa Fe.
Oh,
Probably freezing there too.
Wow.
Nice. Okay, so again, Happy New Year, everyone. It's a real honor to being asked to kick off the year. Howie is starting a retreat tonight over at Spirit Rock. So, and he will be joining us again next week. I want us to do something a little different with our practice period at the very beginning. Cultivating loving kindness is part of our practice. It's not a nice to do. It's not an add-on. It's right there in right intention. And so since tonight we will be touching upon intention, I also want to include something that I've been doing with my group Insight Richmond. I do in my personal practice. But to include loving kindness, to start our practice period with a period of loving kindness. And then we can roll into our regular practice, into our Vipassana, and hopefully the mind has become sweetened with sort of the fragrance of loving kindness, and that we were able to apply that same sense of caring and love to our own experience. And the way I tend to do it is really just to use sort of two muses. The first round, find someone, a group of people, something that really just cracks your heart right open, really easy to love. Maybe it's someone that you know that is suffering. Maybe it's just someone that you want to send loving kindness to, but just someone really easy to love. And then for the second round, include yourself. Send loving kindness to yourself. And you may want to do it as a we, if sometimes, because I know self metta can be a little challenging sometimes. And sometimes doing it as a may we be happy and peaceful. Or you can do it as may I be happy and peaceful. So I hope everyone has some familiarity with metta practice. It's simply we repeat these phrases of loving kindness, these phrases of beneficence. So the first line, and you can use whatever phrases you have. I know a lot of us over the years have developed our own set of phrases, so you're welcome to use those. And if you don't have your set of phrases, you can use, may you be happy and peaceful, may you be safe and protected, may you be healthy and strong, may you live with ease, okay? Or something to that flavor, right? So I want to invite you to find a posture that has a sense of ease to it. Yet also where we can keep the mind bright and curious. And just start to turn the mind away from your concerns of the day. Maybe it was work, maybe it was the news, maybe it was family time. Whatever it was, pleasant, unpleasant, start to bring that focus inward. Right here, right now, into this body. And then just to allow ourselves to start settling. Feeling the grounding of the earth beneath our feet. Or if our feet aren't on the earth, our grounding through our seat and our sits bones into the earth. Feeling the effects of gravity. Just this invitation to settle. Invitation to start letting go. And bringing in this light of awareness to the sensations of the body. Letting it illuminate every nook and cranny. Just with this bare awareness, just sensing whatever there is to be sensed. Sensing the contact of our feet with the ground, our tush with the chair, touch of our hands. We may notice a sense of temperature, pressure. Pulsing, tingling. Feeling the movement of the body as we breathe. Just letting go, letting be. And now I invite you to bring to mind whoever it is that cracks your heart open, someone easy to love. It could be an individual, it could be a group of people. To someone to whom you wish to extend these wishes of loving kindness. You'll be able to see them clearly. Imagine them sitting right opposite, right across from you. And then we can start our phrases for you to say your own or to say your own or to borrow mine. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be safe and protected. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Happy and peaceful. May you be safe and protected. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Just repeating these phrases over and over, sending our love, our care, our goodwill. And if you're unfamiliar or you forget the phrases, just generate goodwill from your heart. All the good wishes for this person or persons. So letting go of the image of this person or persons, thanking them for being in your life, wishing them well. Let their image fade. And then bringing an image of yourself to mind. It could be yourself as you are now, yourself as a child. And we send ourselves the same wishes. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. And if you find this too challenging, you may want to use we, including yourself in the circle with perhaps those that you wished before, or the circle of the Sangha. But we don't want to exclude ourselves. May we be happy and peaceful. May we be safe and protected. May we be healthy and strong. May we live with ease. Allowing our heart to open to our own desire for these basic human wishes. So we can let go of this image of ourselves. And then bringing the same fragrance, perhaps we can just sort of rest in this fragrance of loving kindness. And bringing the same attitude of care, kindness to our moment to moment experience. Right here, right now, in this body. We want to anchor our awareness with our breath, bodily sensation, maybe sound. If you find the mind has wandered off into the future or the past or some fantasy, simply invite it back. No judgment, no recriminations. Just come back home to this moment, to this breath, this body. Over and over again, we just start over. Just here, just now. Nothing to do, nothing to fix. Gently make that transition, doing whatever you need to. No need to rush. So welcome back, everyone. And I want to apologize for the rather harsh doorbell at the beginning of the sit. Many of you probably have since forgotten it, but that was my Instacart order. So anyway, my apologies for that. So let's go ahead and have Catherine do a few announcements. We'll take a short break. So we can do a bio break. I can get my groceries, and then we'll have a bit of a Dharma talk. So Catherine.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I don't think there are any upcoming events to announce that I know about. I didn't see a half day on the calendar. So I can talk a little bit about Donna. Mission Dharma hopes to be back in person at some point, and when we do, we'll have to start paying rent again. So we are always appreciative of donations to support the teacher, to support costs for Mission Dharma to run the Zoom meetings, and eventually, hopefully, to be able to make it possible for those of us local here to be able to come together in person again. So I'll put the information about how to do that in the chat, and thank you very much for your generosity.
Thank you, Catherine. So, okay, so why don't we take, how about we reconvene at 7:52, so a 4-minute break. And so you can take care of your Donna, you can take care of a bio break, you can stretch, get a drink. So we will see you back then. So welcome back, everyone. And again, Happy New Year's. There's always a bit more people here at the beginning of the year because, we all have these good intentions to get in touch with our practice, to start a practice, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But I am honored to be giving the first talk of this new year, 2020. And with everything that has happened over the last 2 years, I think everybody's become pretty wary of setting resolutions or stating big goals, because we've all learned how quickly that can take a left turn. I think 2021 started out so hopefully. We elected a new president and the COVID vaccine was here. It was starting to be put in arms of our seniors, of our most vulnerable population, our healthcare workers. I remember I work in healthcare, and I remember I was at a big meeting and the vaccine was on site. It was in somebody's hand. And I just remember, she said, I've got the bottles here. I've got the vials here. And there were just tears, because there was so much hope in that. And there was so much relief, just to know that the vaccine was here, and that maybe, just maybe, we can see the end of this horrible pandemic. But then, January 6th came, there was the attack on the Capitol, and that turned everything upside down. I think that shook all of us in really deep ways. And then there was hope again with the inauguration. And then again, we came back with some hope about then we went back to sort of despair because the way the vaccine rollout was happening, there was a lot of confusion. It wasn't happening fast enough. But it was like that, all year. We'd have some hope and then we'd be plunged back into confusion and despair. So it was exhausting on top of the exhaustion of 2020, So I think it's really natural that we're coming into this new year and we're feeling probably a bit braced for more of the same. More political divisiveness, more waves of COVID, more climate crisis, more people unhoused, yet amongst, still with all of that happening, we still come to this time, this period of time, this new year, where there's some hope. We make goals, we set intentions. We want to start over. We want to make a better me, live in a better world. Maybe we can create this better we, right? So while many of us have probably given up on formal, making formal New Year's resolutions, we certainly get bombarded in the media, social media, our inbox about all the ways that we can improve ourselves, right? You just notice all the ads for diet programs, workouts, and even meditation programs. I've seen so many things go through my inbox. It's like, start the new year with, and then with some sort of meditation course. So, I know I'm not immune to this. I certainly feel this pull towards some sort of new me, especially because I'm going to be retiring in a month. Lots of time for the self-improvement projects, all these ideas going through my head is like, who can I be when I'm no longer a middle manager, right? Or at least 40 hours of my week is no longer devoted to being a middle manager, right? Yet also, because of my practice and because of wisdom, I also know that, as John Kabat-Zinn said, wherever I go, there I am. So this inquiry about the wisdom or futility of these self-improvement projects, brings to mind the Suzuki Roshi quote, "You're perfect just as you are, and you could use some improvement." Right? It's one of those statements that sort of stops the mind in its tracks. It's this paradox. It's very Zen, right? So for tonight's talk, I want to break this down a bit and see how we can hold these two seemingly conflicting truths, that we're perfect and that we can use some improvement. So for those of you on camera, just a quick show of hands, how many of you would say, I'm perfect just as I am? Just scanning through here. Well, I think I saw half a hand. There we go. Yeah, it's not something we commonly think of. And how many of you would say you could use some improvement? Yeah, hands, head nods, right. So, and the thing is that we could raise our hand for both. It's not an either or statement, right? Both are true. So how do we relate to this statement that I'm perfect just as I am? Now, we may believe that this idea of perfection is impossible. So even to say that I'm perfect seems delusional or egomaniacal, or maybe just silly, or I'm lying or something, conceited. Because how many times have we said nobody's perfect? When we mean that we or somebody else, when they make a mistake, nobody's perfect. This imperfection seems to be a hallmark and acknowledgement of our humanity. Nobody's perfect. You're human too, right? Yet I'm sure many of us have been with a friend, a family member, someone dear to us, particularly a child. I think we see this most with the child. When they're spinning out, feeling hurt, they're feeling less than, their feelings are hurt, right? Maybe they're feeling worthless. And you say with all sincerity, you're perfect just as you are. You're beautiful. You don't need to change a thing. And we mean it. It breaks our heart to see someone that we care about question their own worth, or think that they need to be different than they are. Yet, and we can see the pain in that belief too, right? When someone is spinning out that way, we can see the pain in the belief that I need to be different. I'm somehow not worthy. But yet we know, we say they're perfect, and we can still see their quirks and we can see their weaknesses, but we know that doesn't touch their inner beauty and perfection. Now, some of you may have been around long enough when Howie used to talk of his daughter Molly's molliness. As she was growing up, he was able to see this perfect little being, so very Molly. She was no one else but Molly, right? And we all have our own Molliness or Maryness or Jillness or Linda-ness, right? This unique essence that is untouched by our stories, that's untouched by our negative patterns, but the simple, perfect emanation of you and all the causes and conditions, both known and unknown, that goes into making you uniquely you. So then why is it so hard for us to feel that we're perfect just as we are? Now, I would say most of us, all of us, maybe there's the rare person who doesn't, but we have an inner critic, a very harsh inner voice that always seems to be judging how we're doing, comparing ourselves to others, to some imagined better self. And this inner critic has some pretty definite ideas about how we should be. And it has a lot to say about how we're not measuring up. And this voice may be the voice of our family of origin. Perhaps it's a parental voice. It could be the voice of our culture in which we're raised. And certainly in our case, at least in the US, I don't know how it is in Canada, it's a culture that is subjected to the messages of our media and our advertising. And these messages tell us that because of our race or our gender, our class, our sexual orientation, our identity, our size, our religion, what we look at, like what we're interested in, that we're simply not enough. That there's some ideal out there. And it's usually young, white, straight, skinny, rich, good looking. And even then it's not enough, right? Even if you're all those things. But we're just not making it. And intellectually, we know it's BS. We know. We recognize that these are all messages, artificial messages that are meant to sell us something. Intellectually, we know it's BS. Yet it's also the water that we swim in. It's just, yeah, it's the air, it's in the air we breathe, it's in the water we swim in. So to go against those messages means that we're swimming upstream. And sometimes we're strong enough to do it, sometimes not so much. So if we were able to see ourselves with these eyes of unconditional love, like we do our loved ones, we might be able to see our own perfection. We might stop trying so hard to be someone else. Now, the good news is that we can cultivate this self-love, this self-care, through our practice, particularly our practice of self-metta, self-compassion. That's why, when we started today, I think sometimes it's really easy to send metta to others, and it can be more challenging for ourselves. And so I think it's always important to somehow get yourself in there, right? To break down that barrier between self and others, because we are, of course, I'm going to forget the quote. Buddha said, you can search the world over and you'll find no one more deserving of loving kindness as yourself. But, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. We have years of conditioning of self-judgment. Yet we know it's possible to have this feeling of perfection, of wholeness and completeness, because we experience this in our practice when we're coming back to the here and now, right? So you have a taste of this when we meditate, right? So we sit, our bodies and minds start to become still and be quiet, and we stop spinning these stories of ourselves. And that way we can glimpse into this perfection, because in this present moment, all there is what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel, and even the thoughts floating by. And when we have this bare awareness of life, just as it touches us in this moment, we're fine. Sure, maybe sometimes the experiences, sensations may be unpleasant, but if we don't cling to them or try to push them away or fix them, and we just allow, we simply are, there's nothing to change, nothing to fix, right? And so if there's nothing to fix, we're perfect, just as we are. So with mindfulness, we can discern and we can see through this judgmental and comparing mind. And in seeing it and acknowledging its presence, it starts to lose its power to spin its stories about how we're not enough, right? We're able to start feel our enoughness, our wholeness, our perfection. And we start to feel it first in our practice, and then it starts radiating into our daily life. We take it off the seat where, we have moments during our day we're going, I'm fine. Even when conditions may not be. I'm fine just as I am. So let's take a look at the second part of the quote. And we could use some improvement. So that part is probably easier to grok. That's more familiar. That's a thought that goes through our head. Oh, I could use some improvement. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve, to be better. I think sometimes we get this idea that accepting ourselves just as we are means that there's some that we shouldn't want to improve. We shouldn't want to make things better. But that's not true. So we just have to be really clear on what our motivation is for these self-improvement projects, right? And also how we hold them and their outcome. So if we didn't have the desire to be happier, to be wiser, to be more compassionate or loving, we probably wouldn't be here. We could probably find something else to do on a Tuesday night. Maybe there's some good programs on the TV, but we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be engaged in this in practice. You know, we wouldn't be sitting around in silence, listening to someone yammer about some paradox, right? We'd be off doing something else. We'd be feeding the pleasure machine, right? So we're here because we want to be happy. We want to reduce our suffering. We want to wake up. So even with these wholesome desires, whether it's for awakening or wishing good things for our family, our friends, for our spiritual life, our physical and mental well-being, or service in the world, right? We still need to be really careful about our motivation, our intention. Is it driven by wisdom or by compassion, by loving kindness? Or is it some kind of, is it a self-improvement project that's driven out of a sense of insufficiency, right? Or is it just an ego-driven because we want to look good, have people think well of us? You know, very different motivations can be driving the same action. I've always found that interesting. You could be doing the same thing, but you could be doing, like, for instance, if you give something, you could be giving because you really want to give this gift. It comes from this heart of generosity and care. But sometimes we give out of a sense of obligation, or we give because we want to be seen as a giving person, or we want people to like us, right? So we need to be very clear about what our motivation is. Because even though we may be doing something, because even though, you know, with when we check, if we don't check our motivation, often we're doing things and we may find that there's a sense of satisfaction, gratification, achievement, but we know it won't last. It won't ultimately free us from dukkha or give us the lasting happiness that we seek. So even in our spiritual quests, our motivations can get very mixed. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche wrote a whole book about spiritual materialism. And I've seen it firsthand. I've engaged in it too. I mean, I'm guilty, right? When we start collecting all the trappings of a spiritual life, and we use it as a bit of a substitute for doing the real thing. So we have a whole collection of Buddhas and Buddha's art and malas and prayer flags and books. Oh, all the books. You know, so we can surround ourselves. You know, our house could be, you know, look like a damn Buddhist temple, but, you know, are we really practicing? Or do we want people to just come in and go, oh my gosh, you're so spiritual. You're such a spiritual person. So again, it's just a matter of being really honest with ourselves, because we like to think of ourselves as good people, but we just need to check whether what we're doing is just to further this view of ourselves or to impress others, or if it's really coming from a wise place, from wise intention. So let's say you've got a goal, a resolution, intention, and it seems to be coming from a wise place, right? There's there's wisdom behind it, there's compassion behind it, there's loving kindness. We also have to be careful about how tightly we hold it, because even the most virtuous of desires can cause immense suffering if we're holding on to it too tightly. And I can give you an example. There was a retreat I went on years ago, and I really wanted to attain this certain state. And I went into this retreat just really gung ho. I'm gonna get this. And my mind was so tight. Not saying the intention wasn't virtuous, but there was this clinging to it, right? There's this attachment, and I was holding it so tight. At the end, I didn't get what I wanted. And what could have been a wonderful open retreat was then flavored with this regret and frustration. I didn't get what I wanted, right? So we need to find this balance between holding things really tightly and then also being able to have enough energy and effort, right? So there's this sense of, we want equanimity, right? We want to be able to have this, be able to hold our intentions with equanimity, where it's like we go after them. There may be a passion, there's energy, there's effort, but there's also this understanding of the first noble truth, that there is suffering and there is sickness and there's old age and there's death, and we don't always get what we want, and we lose what we love, right? And so we don't want to hold it too loosely, because that's indifference. We don't want to hold it too tightly, because that's attachment. So we want to find this equanimous way of holding our intentions that is wise. And we also don't want to pick up that second arrow, right? When things don't go our way, right? When our intentions and don't work out, we don't want to pick up that second arrow and go into blame and shame and all that other things, and create even more suffering for ourselves. So this ran shorter than I thought, so we'll have some time for questions or comments. So I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. We all have this wish to be happy and peaceful, and wish that we are safe and protected, we're healthy and strong. And we remember that our practice is not just about ourselves alone, but those near and dear and those unknown, far away, those we like, we don't like, also benefit. So yeah, may we have a wonderful new year, a wise new year, a loving new year, no matter what the conditions, because the Lord knows what 2022 hasn't. It's starting off grand, isn't it? With this huge COVID spike. So maybe it can only get better. Anyway, thank you for your kind attention. And if you have any comments or questions, we have some time for that. Or
If you want to ask a question, you can use the raise hand feature, which is under reactions.
hi, Isaac.
Hi, I like. Thanks very much, Mary. I like the image of equanimity, and I had this of not clinging too much, but also not being, I guess, too loose or indifferent about practice and self improvement and things. And I had an image of sort of a child on a balance beam, sort of joyfully laughing and falling off and getting back
Yeah.
on again. Um, I, you know, I haven't been practicing that long, but I certainly have these pretty intense ups and downs, and um, spun out pretty bad yesterday. Do you? What's my? How do I articulate this? Do you? I assume as time goes on and the practice deepens and wisdom comes in a little more strongly, you tend to sense these times of a little sooner. Like I said, I every now and then I just spin out and have a day where I'm just knocked off my feet and really despair. And how, can you speak to how it feels to um, sense that imbalance coming a little sooner, perhaps? I think I'm asking that correctly. Does that make any
Yeah,
sense?
I think I understand what you're saying here. You know, I think it's sort of this natural fruit of practice, that you start, like you said, you start to sense you're unbalanced, and then we have the tools. You start cultivating these tools that, how can I get myself back in balance? What do I need right now, to sort of get myself back in balance? Sometimes it's loving kindness, sometimes it's self-compassion, sometimes we just need to, take a break and breathe. I mean, I got knocked off my feet major this weekend. So I understand because it still happens. And sometimes it sneaks up on you. Um, but then it's like, then we wake up again. It's like, oh, okay. I realize, it's not letting the story spin out, because that's where we get in trouble. The story keeps going and going and going. It's like, oh, okay, there's this crazy story going on. How can I just come back to myself and come back to this moment and reset? And you may have to do it several times.
Do you have particular techniques that you like to use when the story starts to get out of control for yourself?
I am a big fan of metta. I think that there's something, there is this moving the mind, because you have these phrases, the mind is busy with something, right? And you can't have these two stories running, these two thoughts happening at the same time. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to go and do some metta for a while. And I find that that really helps. It moves the mind from whatever it's spinning about, and it moves it to something more wholesome. Even if the phrases seem a bit dry, it doesn't mean that the heart is going to burst open, but it's this intentional practice. And that's my go-to, because I find sometimes the breath can be a little bit too subtle. Um, and also self-compassion practice, being able to realize, oh, this is really painful. This story I'm telling, this spinning out, the situation I'm in, we acknowledge the hurt, the ouch. That's where the mindfulness comes in.
Yeah.
We remind ourselves that we're part of humanity. This is part of being human. And then we comfort ourselves. I mean, just sometimes a heart rub, just doing something to sort of just soothe ourselves as if, we were our best friend.
Mm.
What would we say to our best friend? What will we say to our child who is having a similar situation? So those are my go-tos.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Isaac.
I wanted to share that I'm starting to find sitting to be an act of self love. That, over the past 2 years, actually, with COVID, I've really developed a daily sitting practice in the morning. And it started out, it started out kind of not sure how to find the rhythm of it. And then it got sort of rigid, where it had to be at 7 o'clock and I had to sit with a particular teacher, and if I missed it, then I was out of sorts. and I'm finding that I'm just becoming a lot more flexible in that, we had house guests over the holidays, and my sleep was all different, and I wasn't getting up at the same time every day, and generally that gets me really kind of off balance, like I'm a person who really needs balance. But I just know now that if I'm feeling a little off and I go sit, no matter whether I'm listening to a teacher at all or what time of day, I just find so much loving comfort in just the act. No matter, it doesn't even matter sort of what happens
Yeah.
or doesn't happen during the meditation, but I really feel nurtured, and that feels like a gift of sticking with it.
Yeah. That sounds like that sounds like a fruit of our practice, because I think, because when I started practice seriously, I was also very rigid, where it was like I had to get this, a certain number of minutes in, otherwise I was breaking my goal and whatnot. And then after that, then it just becomes much more relaxed, because you practice because you love to practice. And we all need that time to just reset and settle and just, come into the peace of the here and now, even when things are not so peaceful. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else? Yeah, Jill.
Well, firstly, I want to say all the best with your retirement.
Oh, thank you.
That's just, I retired through COVID, and hey, it's another kind of practice.
Yeah.
It is. So all the best. So,
Yeah, thank you.
when we were talking about, self-love, the term that I'm really loving these days is, I think maybe Pema Chodron started it from where is the term basic goodness, or basic goodness. It's a beautiful term. And I was reading Greg Boyle's new book, Works with Homeboys, and he talks a lot about basic goodness. And yeah, I don't know why that term is just it's just so comforting to me. It's so comforting to me. So anyway, I wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Yeah, I think it's really helpful when we find expressions or terms or words that resonate with us, go with it. If it sort of evokes that. And yeah, I like basic goodness too. And I think that is a Pema Chodron thing. So thank you for bringing that into the room, Jill. Anyone else? Sorry, my cat is attacking me. I got to tell you, he is a real practice. He sent me to the ER this weekend, or a few days ago, because he bit me and the bite became infected. And it was really interesting to sense being in the ER during COVID is not a place you want to be. Yet I found that I had this amazing sense of equanimity and calm, throughout the whole thing. So, and that wasn't manufactured. It was like, I'm going to be calm. It's like, okay, well, this is what we do. And so, I think that we get more and more confidence in the fruits of the practice when we start to experience them.
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah. I find that I retired, not that long ago, and I feel like I'm going crazy. I mean, I just feel like I'm a worrywart, and I'm much worse than I was before I was teaching. I mean, it's just like I can't deal with it. It was like the comfort I got from going to my own classroom and feeling like I had my way, and my place and my station. Now I feel like a nervous wreck, like I'm going to get a nervous breakdown, although I've never had one, and I don't think I will. but my mind goes crazy. It's just like, what do I do with myself? It's like, I hate it.
Mm. I'm sorry to hear that, Stephen. That's, I know people have different, different ways of, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody where it's just like they had a similar experience. Retirement was really hard because it gave their mind a lot of room to just to ruminate and to run its stories and be negative. And so then it takes some time, I think, to find, what is it that's wholesome? What is it that can, replace, um, what you had before with something that's not going to cause as much suffering. So,
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of suffering I'm going through now, and tremendous amount of worry. And I was always a worrywart, but there was periods where there was a lot of sunshine and I could laugh. And now I just feel like since I retired, it's just been really impossible for me almost. I mean, it's just bringing me down to my knees.
mm. Well, Stephen, I hope you can find some resources, both internal and external to help, and that you feel comfortable reaching out. And so,
But I also feel like I do a tremendous amount of counseling. I feel like my energy needs to be out there, serving other people and using my creativity and being supported like I felt when I was teaching. I feel like I could talk about this stuff until the cows come home. But I mean, I think I have to go out and be the cow. I mean, not the cow, that's ridiculous. But I just feel like this is not working. Just talking about myself is not working.
yeah.
It just it just goes around in a circle, and you feel some relief, but then you're living in this world of tremendous anxiety. I just don't hate it.
Yeah, sometimes we need those things to step out of ourselves, service, helping others. So anyway, sending you lots of metta, Stephen. We need to close out, but Brenda, Ann, you had your hand up. No? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So thank you. Best of luck to you. All right. So just take a moment to close out, dedicate the merit. Whatever benefit we may have, goodness that we have generated tonight by being together in practice, may we spread that far and wide to those near and dear, those not so dear, those not so near, human, non-human. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone have happiness and peace. And may we all be free. So thank you all very much. Howie will be back next week, and Happy New Year to you. You can unmute and
Thank you, Mary.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mary.
New Year.
One love.